Hello, good afternoon. Welcome everyone to the first part of the DeepTech in Maritime webinar series, in which over the course of 3 sessions, we will get to know how digital transformation of the maritime industry is already taking place via technologies such as blockchain, artificial intelligence, or machine learning. My name is Cristina de Lorenzo Cáceres, and I am the coordinator of the Alpha Ship Academy project. This is an initiative by Alpha Ship Shipping Agency aimed at continuous professional development in the maritime sector. And today I will be moderating the session. So to guide us on this journey of discovery into these cutting-edge technologies, we are joined by a leader in transformation, digital transformation within the maritime industry, which is Mr. Anjaney Borwankar. Please welcome Anjan. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Christina, for having me, and also to the Alpha Ship Academy.
So, well, fair to say that Anjan is a pioneer in applying technologies to the maritime industry. He has collaborated with institutions like the Nautical Institute in London and the International Maritime Organization itself. He began his career as a seagoing officer and has worked with prestigious companies like McKinsey, Maersk, and the IESE Business School. He's also the co-founder and CEO of Navozyme, an innovative DeepTech company focused on digitalizing and decarbonizing the global maritime industry, which has developed acclaimed solutions that enable a safer and more sustainable sector. Before we begin, I'd like to briefly mention that this session is being recorded for later reviewing. And for those who are not familiar with the application, here are some tools we may use. On the one hand, there is the chat accessible through the speech bubble icon on the bottom line, where you can leave your questions and we shall review it at the end of the session. And also for those who want to participate, there's the raise your hand button and your microphone then will be activated so we could hear you. And without further ado, I'll happily hand it over to Anjan. Thank you very much, Anjan, for being here with us today.
Thanks so much, Christina. Thanks. Very nice to see you again. So I want to make this also very interactive. So my idea will be to speak and give a short presentation for hopefully under 30 minutes, and then we get at least half an hour of interaction, more or less. Okay. Super. So I'm going to share my screen to help frame this, and then just maybe Christina here, you can just confirm once you see my screen. Okay. So maybe you can say or give me a thumbs up that it's okay.
Already on screen. Yes, we confirm.
Excellent. Excellent. So as Christina mentioned, when we were discussing this series of webinars, we agreed that we'll do it in 3 parts, because not only is it deep tech, but it's also a very deep topic. You know, when we talk of maritime digital transformation and certain technologies that are being applied to transform the industry. So we wouldn't have done any justice if we just did one short webinar. Though in this webinar, my aim will be to give you a flavor of what is deep tech, right? So help define that a little bit. Why does it matter? And then give you a flavor of some examples of what is happening in maritime. And these examples are not academic examples. These are examples from my direct experience through this company that we set up called Navozyme, right? So hopefully it'll be very interesting and be very interactive. The examples we will show you are also first in the world in the maritime industry. In part 2, we will dive deep into what is blockchain and again use those examples, but we'll actually try and understand how that is actually built, okay? So how does the technology work, to give you a flavor of that so that you can apply it in your own businesses. And part 3, we will look at artificial intelligence and again, do the same thing. We'll look at real life examples and how it's being built and what is that technology in a little bit deeper sense, right? So these are 3 parts, and hopefully you'll be excited and continue on part 2 and part 3. I know at this time of the year, time of the day, and with all the stuff that's happening in the world, it's really difficult to stay connected to an online session, especially a screen. So feel free to also, watch the recording later on, right? And to distribute it amongst your friends. So with that, I'm going to start. So let's begin. So my session today is going to be in 3 parts. I'm going to talk about what is DeepTech, give you maritime examples, and probably the most important part is all that is great, but what does it mean for you, right, in the maritime industry and as a maritime leader, right? So with that, let's begin. Remember, please put in a lot of your questions along the way. And later, Christina will be back to moderate and ask some of those questions, right? So let's go into what is DeepTech first. Let's define that. And the way I'd like to define that is basically that it's a series of technologies, right? And it can be things like biotechnology, distributed ledger technology, which we also call commonly as blockchain, quantum computing. There are advanced materials, nanomaterials, robotics, artificial intelligence, and then certain technologies for clean energy. So all those actually come under the umbrella of what we call deep tech, right? So do not be thrown off by the word when we see the word deep tech. But there are some common characteristics which make these technologies very different from any other previous technology that we know. So let's understand what that is. So these are basically characterized by the following. One, that it requires substantial scientific engineering challenges to build those technologies, right? So literally hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars have gone into actually developing these technologies, right? Whether it's blockchain or artificial intelligence, as we know it today, biotech, etc. Right? So one is it's not so easy to develop that. It takes a lot of R&D, takes a lot of brain power, right? And because of that, there are also high barriers to entry. It's not so easy for somebody to just build that, right? However, we are going to look at applications. So somebody has done the very difficult work of bringing those technologies to life. We are going to look at how we can apply that in maritime to get all the gains, right? And what excites me really about deep tech is not just the technology for the sake of technology, but because of what I have highlighted here on this slide in red, that it has a potential for profound impact on society. Hopefully a positive impact. We'll see in digital transformation, impact can be both positive and negative. Not only on impact on society, but also on the economy, also on the environment. So actually we can reap a lot of benefits. Just like any other transformative technology, it can be used for good or not so good activities, right? So that's why we sometimes fear some of these technologies, right? There's a lot of discussion about the power of AI and whether it's a good thing or not a good thing. That really depends on us as human beings. I'm a deep believer that actually technology is a tool and nothing more. So it's for us as leaders to really understand that rather than fear that. We usually fear things that we don't understand. So part of this webinar, the objective is to raise awareness about these topics, right? And not to fear it, but to embrace it and use it for our benefits. So I'm going to show in this presentation, how can it actually have a profound impact on society, economy, and the environment, right? So I have a tall order to meet to lots of expectations. So let me go a little faster. So the best way to explain this is through examples. So let me show you examples. I'll start with blockchain first, and then go into AI, and then we kind of look at the implications. Right. So let's bring it to life. So these are seafarers. This is a photo from pre-COVID days, so things have changed a little bit. But here are seafarers who are basically waiting for some certificates. Okay, I used to be one of these people, and that's the frustration, that's the motivation to develop these solutions that we are doing, right? So they're waiting for certificates on their licenses, stamps, seals, signatures, before they can go out to sea. And many of these people, if they don't go out to sea, their families do not get to eat, right? That's the real implication of this. Philippines is the largest supplier of seafarers in the world on international commercial ships. So this is why this photo is very relevant. And what are these certificates we are talking about? Here I'm showing you a sample of various types of certificates. On the left, if you see my pointer, you will see there's some Spanish certificate. This is actually a waste delivery receipt, a recibo, which is basically proof of the ship disposing of its waste, its garbage, in the proper way, right? And on the right, you see actually records of people, having sea time and all these things. Now you can see all this is handwritten, lots of stamps, signatures, seals. Is there a better way, right? Can DeepTech help? So the answer, of course, is yes. So from this complexity that we see with a lot of different things, books, paper, that's the evidence of somebody's career, imagine, right? So how about if we move this away from paper and stuff like that to your phones, right? So we have a solution in Navozyme called NCAP, and all these credentials are your documents regarding training. They can be your identity document, they can be your medical documents, etc. So imagine that coming directly to you on your phone, and it's only going to you in a secure manner. Today, we can do banking transactions. We can send millions with a few taps. So why can't we actually receive something like this? Why do people have to wait in the queue, right? So this is one of the applications. And behind this application is a lot of technology, deep tech, and particularly in this particular one, blockchain, right? So I'm going to attempt, I think we have some time. So I'm going to actually show a short video of how this thing works. And then we'll come back to the presentation again. It will give you a better flavor of how this deep tech conceptual thing can be used in real life. So I'm going to stop sharing just to switch my screen to the other one. Okay, so bear with me for a second. Okay, here we go. Let me make this full screen. And I'm going to play a short video and actually explain what's happening there. So this is a video showing you how this technology would work in practice, right? You have the certificate issuers who will have an interface, and they will be able to issue those certificates with a few taps. You'll have real-time metrics and stuff like that, so you have control over what's going on with all these certificates. The Bs we call here are called blockchain-enabled electronic certificates, right? And basically what they have done with a few taps is that those credentials have gone onto the mobiles of the persons, in this case, the seafarers. And then you can have all kinds of stuff going on. You can verify in real time whether that credential is valid, unlike a paper certificate. Here you see that happening. Any third party can issue and can verify what's happening. It's going to the data sources to check and revert the thing. So basically, we are able to facilitate trust through technology. Okay, let me revert to my other presentation again. And let me explain. We are not going to learn about blockchain in this session. For that, you've got to wait till webinar number 2. Okay, but here you saw basically that rather than those paper people waiting in queues, trying to figure out what's going on, waiting for signatures, etc. You've got a deep tech solution which helps solve problems, right? And this is part of the social impact that I'm talking about. We'll go a little further into this. So this is already an application that's, almost 15,000 certificates have been issued as of today by many reputed parties globally. We'll learn how this works and all that in session 2. Let me go further and let me show you another example, a completely different example with another technology, but again under the deep tech umbrella. And this technology is basically AI, artificial intelligence, particularly machine learning within that. So let's take the example of bunkering operations. Now, those who are connected, most of you are already from the maritime industry, but still, for those not familiar, bunkering is the operation of providing fuel to ships. So in this photo on the right side, you see a very large vessel, and there's another vessel which is equally large, but it's the bunker supply. It's supplying fuel to this other vessel, okay, via basically pipes. Here in this other picture, you see the blue ship supplying to the bigger red ship, right? Fuel. Now that's fine, but so what's the issue? The issue is before you can do that, before you can power the ship with the fuel, you actually have to make sure that lots of things are in place. You have to make sure that your service, your fuel specification is available, the barge is ready at the exact location, the pressure of your pumps are matching that on the other side, etc., etc. So lots of checklists to be filled out. The timing has to be matched because these big ships, imagine if they're just waiting because the service is not ready. That's a lot of fuel burn, waiting time wasted, and also lots of greenhouse gases in the environment. So all these different bodies like the port authorities, bunker suppliers, ship agents, masters, ship owners, etc., are involved in this process, right? There's information interchange. And this is a very critical operation, right? If you do this wrong, basically you can have a safety hazard. There can be an oil spill, or worse, you can even have just a major disaster as well. So we want to avoid all that. So how can deep tech help? So one of the things that we saw is with the port of Algeciras in Spain, which is the largest bunker port in Spain. It's a very important trade route in the Strait of Gibraltar. And here there is a choke point. Lots of ships come, but they have to wait. And they have to wait for the service, the bunker service to be ready, right? So the application of AI here is to look at using satellite information, AIS information, local weather data, etc. Basically work out an algorithm that predicts when is the best time for bunkering, so that the ship comes, the service is ready, there's almost zero waiting time, and then it proceeds. Imagine the benefits of that. So Navozyme is proud that we've been actually working on this for over a year now, along with the Port Authority of Algeciras. It's part of the innovation projects that we do. And we have been able to demonstrate that there's substantial reduction in waiting time, right? In fact, we have measured that, and the potential of this particular solution can result in over 2.5 million metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions to be reduced. So again, I've also posted some sustainable development goal metrics here, because remember I said what excites me in deep tech is the impact that it can have, not just on the business, but also on society. So you can actually see that we tick the box for many of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as a result of applying this solution and bringing it to life. But again, deep tech is the fundamental layer here that makes this happen. So I hope through these examples, I have able to prove that you can actually be applying technologies of deep tech in the maritime industry and have a profound impact. Remember, this session is an introductory session to get you to understand what is deep tech. to give you a flavor and hopefully excite you to learn more about these technologies, right? We will deep dive into these technologies in the future webinars. So let me go to the last part of my presentation before I open it up to Q&A and discussions. So here, all this is great, but again, now what are the implications for you, right? So one thing that we must not forget is that the maritime industry, like many other industries, are actually going through a process of digital transformation. In fact, this has already happened in other industries, whether it's financial services. So fintech has changed that landscape already for us. Health tech, medical technologies. And maritime is now actually, it's come to maritime. So digital transformation is actually the process where the business model changes fundamentally, right? So the way you're doing business, your assumptions of how you created value is changing. So be very careful here, because what worked for you a decade ago may not work for you going forward. I don't want to scare anyone, but just think of the other industries for a moment. We know all these examples very well. Airbnb is the largest hotel company in the world without owning a single asset, a single room. Look at Uber, right? We all have used that, we know that, but they don't own the taxis, right? So this is part of they've changed the fundamental business model. And this means that you really need to think about how this is going to affect our industry as well, right? So this is what is digital transformation. It's a business model change, which basically means it's a value driver change. How are you actually able to deliver value? So you can either take advantage of that, or you can be caught off guard, right? Important, some more details on this point. So the industries are blurring. So if your competitors have been the traditional other shipping companies, be careful to assume that's the only way it's going to look in the future, right? The Marriott hotels, the Hiltons, did not think that Airbnb was their competitor till it was too late, et cetera, et cetera. You can fill in the blanks here, right? So your traditional competitive advantage is being eroded. So how will you succeed? The first way you will succeed is first by changing your own paradigm and your own mindset. And this is why, these kinds of talks are very important, because the idea here is to first raise awareness and to first get yourself prepared on this, right? That's why I said, what are the implications for you personally? And I won't give answers on this one, but I'm basically going to throw out some questions, which is, what do you think you will need to succeed in this new environment of digital transformation, where deep tech is actually coming in a big way, whether it's blockchain, AI, or any of the other technologies? How do the jobs in the future look? How could you become redundant? This is a question I always ask myself as an individual, but also as a company. It's a very interesting question, because if you figure out the answer, then basically you should be doing that, so that before you become redundant, you kind of already have future-proofed yourself. Okay, so that's a hint. Again, in the future sessions, I'll go deeper into these topics, but I want to actually open it up for an interaction now. We've got about half an hour or so left. I have plenty of materials here, so Christina, don't worry, I can keep going. But I think I'll take a pause right now to get a reaction and maybe any other comments you may have. I'll also stop sharing my screen. The last thing, and I have to earn my dinner, so I'm going to show this slide. And basically, sorry, there's an echo coming. Christina, if you mind just keeping it mute for a second. Yeah, thank you. So I did mention that, we created Navozyme because of the personal frustration with all these certificates, waiting in queues, etc. Our guiding light, our guiding compass is really this, right? That can we use technology to actually better the lives of people, right? So we actually have decarbonization, enhancing people's welfare at the core of what we do, So this is not a thrill thing. This is exactly what we do. This is why when you invited me, Christina, I was like, okay, another opportunity to actually help us, raise awareness on this topic. So thanks for bearing with me. And now I'm passing it to Christina. So I'll stop sharing as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anjan, for everything you've shared with us. Well, I welcome everyone in the webinar to participate, to raise the hand or post a question to Anjan now in the chat. So I don't see if is anyone already. Well, meanwhile, I do have a I have a question for Anjan. While people starts breaking the ice to pose their question to, how do you see this in a short term, the maritime industry changing with these technologies? Do you believe it's something we will see appearing in perhaps 5 to 10 years, or will it take longer?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. As you asked the question, I'm reflecting. And my answer will be actually, it depends. That's always the best answer, right? It depends. Because, for example, what I showed you with the certification, right? Electronic certificates. Now, the IMO has already, back in 2017 first, already given guidelines of what could be electronic certificates, right? But we still see a lot of paper certificates. We still see a lot of signatures, stamps, seals. Technology exists for that today, right? Already. It's not 10 years down the line. It's already there. And we are, as Navozyme, we are one of the players. There's some other players for sure, right? But we have already got some traction here, right? Thousands of certificates, tens of thousands of certificates have been issued, and more are coming, right, as we talk. So Navozyme is issuing digital identities, for seafarers as well in the Philippines. So, literally thousands of people are benefiting from this. So in that particular case, the answer is yes, it's already here. But now if you look at the other example that I showed you, the just-in-time bunkering, I know there are many initiatives happening with this, but it's a big challenge and it takes a lot of effort, right? This is again why you don't see it so easily. I mentioned that there is a lot of time investment. You're going into the unknown when you're doing transformation, right? So you must have the patience. There are lots of feedback loops. And in certain technologies like AI, unless you have access to the data, right, you can't really build any learning models. So each technology brings with it certain challenges. Some are very quick. Some are going to be much longer. In my view, the AI pieces, especially when you're talking of machine learning, etc., will take much longer, right? But some of the others are already ready for plug and play. So that's a little bit my stance here. The basic thing I'll say is there's still a lot yet to come, right? So the opportunities are tremendous. I think that's the message I'd like to leave the audience with. That the opportunities are tremendous. So if anyone is thinking moving in this direction, it's a brilliant time. You're still at the early stages. Also, as a company like Navozyme, right, one of the challenges we have is talent. So unless we can have people who are interested and trained, not just from a technology perspective, but also from a maritime perspective, we are not going to be able to solve these problems, right? So this is why we in Navozyme find ourselves in a unique position, because we have an understanding of both those worlds, right? I think a lot of value gets created at the edges, and this is a very big opportunity right now.
I don't see any other question in the chat. Maybe we are so standard. Nobody else is feeling confident to say more so far. We want to see maybe more in the next following sessions. But to me, now that you mentioned the people that was working on this digital transformation, the skills they have, I am just wondering what kind of people, profiles, skills, academic backgrounds is this new technology transformation will require?
Okay, that's a deep question with a lot of I think this is again, the Alphaship Academy is kind of playing a role in that direction, right? That you can be a very good channel to raise awareness about what is needed, because quite frankly, you don't know what you don't know, right? So how do you even begin? And here I don't have the perfect answer, but from my experience, what I've seen first is just the awareness that there is something like this happening, right? Because without that, you don't know what you don't know. Second is this you can't develop suddenly by doing a course, but it requires people who have a curiosity for learning, okay? And I think many people have that innately. They may have forgotten that, right? So it's to remind yourself that, if you're in a very comfortable position right now, be careful, because that may just be pulled out. That rug may be pulled out because of what I told you earlier, right? There's so many new things happening. You'll suddenly find yourself outdated. You don't want that. So continuous learning, the curiosity to learn needs to be there. That's the first thing. Learning a technology itself, it depends on what you want to do. But we should not be disheartened, right? So I am not a computer engineer. I have studied some computer science before in my school days. I used to love programming as well, but I will not claim to be a computer scientist or anything like that, right? Having said that, after I worked on ships, I went on to do an MBA to learn about business. And later, many years later, in my 40s, I went to Oxford to study about what is blockchain technology in more detail, really doing deep dive, right? And now that is paying me a lot of dividends today, right? So I'm giving you an example that it can be done very easily. You don't have to be a technical person to have these opportunities. In fact, what you need is actually understanding of maritime. So you need to know one of those things, right? So if you're already in maritime, how would you bring technology to help you? You don't need to be the technology expert. We all use our mobile phones to navigate. How many of us really know in great detail how the GPS works or how the mobile phone works? We don't need that, right? But if you don't know how to use the phone, if it's given to you, right? And forgive my great grandmother, but I think she would not know what to do with that phone. Then we are not taking advantage. So I think it's a little bit in that direction. You need to have the curiosity to learn. You need to have basically not the fear that, okay, if I don't know technology, I can't do anything about it. No, that's not true, right? And we'll see that in the next 2 sessions. I will make you guys a blockchain expert, enough for you to be able to create value in your company, okay? That's a promise. I've been running sessions on that for quite some time. I think there is a person who's raised his hand, right? Roberto.
Yes, there is a hand raised. I'll hand it over to Roberto. Please pose your question, please.
You want them to type the questions, right? Ideally.
Yeah.
But okay, if they want to speak, I think it's a small group, so I think we can have that.
I think he is able now to chat. Please pose your question. It's weird because it seems that it's allowed in the chat.
but they can just speak up also if they want.
Mhm.
They can unmute, no, I think, or no?
Yeah,
Because it's
I'm unmuting.
right.
It's already open. He can speak if he wishes. Just a sec. Maybe we're having a little problem with the chat, but I think it's already well working. Okay, well, he's posting me the question. He's asking you, Anjan, how the users of the companies that are into this transformation, how difficult will be for them to get used to these new technologies, to incorporate these technologies in the daily task, I believe.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the best technologies are when you don't even know you're using the technology, right? That's when it becomes advanced, right? So if you have to learn the technology or know that the technology is coming, it shows that the technology hasn't advanced enough, okay? What do I mean by that? When you switch on the light, right? Are you really thinking of how electricity works and all that? And do you need to know that to use it? The answer is no, right? But in the early days, when the first bulbs came, perhaps they needed to understand those things, right? Otherwise, they'll get electrocuted. Similarly, right now, as we talk, we are actually using technologies like blockchain, distributed ledger technologies, AI. All this is actually happening in the background, right? So many financial transactions today actually take advantage of the accounting ledgers available on blockchain. Okay, this is why you're able to do things faster, cheaper, and have the security that you need, right? So we don't know it's happening, but it is there. Similarly, AI, I think you all know already, right? Many times you're using and you get a prompt, and who's listening into your conversation, etc. It's actually the AI bot at the back, right? So quite frankly, I think that's less of a worry that, whether we need to, the new users will be worried about the technology. The worry is not the technology. The worry is the change. Whenever we have any change, we are worried, right? Because the nature of life, the nature of life is to be comfortable and not change. But it's not the technology. Technology is the excuse. People just say, it's because of I don't understand it, etc. I will not change. That's actually an excuse, right? So the suggestion here, how to make change happen, is to actually break this idea that it's technology that's the barrier, and to work on the people issues. So sometimes it's like, the cost of change is going to be very high because you're so used to doing something. Now you have to, make everyone change. Sometimes you've got two sets of data that you've got to work with, right? Because the other thing is still being trialed. That's where the resistance comes. It's not the technology, quite frankly, right? But it is not to be underestimated. So when we do digital transformation, what we're doing actually is change management, more than technology, transfer and things like that. And it's a very core thing to keep that inside our thinking. So this is why inside Navozyme, the expertise that we have is also about change management, how you communicate, how you build confidence with your stakeholders, how do you actually address all the issues, non-technology issues, so that change can happen. If you don't do that, at the early stage, at least, you'll get a lot of resistance. Later change will become very easy. You know why? Because it'll almost become like you are the outcast if you don't use this technology. So let's say you're not the person in your class using a phone, I know this. I have a teenage son. He was the last person to get a mobile in his class. He had a lot of peer pressure that please get the phone, right? Similarly, imagine now everyone is doing digital signatures and you are asking people to come and sign and stamp. You'll be the funny guy, not the other way around, right? But the first person who does it is very difficult. So we are in that early stage. The early adopters have to be brave, right? But they get a lot of benefits also. So don't forget that. The early adopter has a competitive advantage, which is longer lasting, compared to somebody who comes in later.
Thank you. We have another question here. They ask how you use blockchain technology and play in the future with BTC or other crypto coin to do business.
This question actually should wait for the next session, okay? Because no, quite frankly, because it's a good question. However, it requires some understanding of what is Bitcoin, what are digital ledger technologies, etc. So I will answer, but also those who attend next session will actually get a deeper understanding of it. So if somebody is not able to follow right now, please excuse me, but I'm going to answer that. So the first thing I'm going to say is that in the technology that we use for these certifications, etc., it has nothing to do with cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin, okay? So Bitcoin is not blockchain, okay? Bitcoin is a subset, it's an application of blockchain. It's like this. You have a lot of animals in the world, right? So the dog is an animal, but are all animals dogs? No, right? So the Bitcoin is basically a specific application for transfer of money, right? That was created long time back, 2009. We are now in basically 2024. So long time, lots of advancements here, lots of flavors of the technologies, etc. Right? So in the next session, we'll see the power of actually blockchain technology, but I'll give a teaser. The power of blockchain is actually its resiliency. It's like the COVID virus that you can't kill the leader and everything goes away. This is why it's called distributed or decentralized. The two things are a little different, but still, right? That's one. And cryptocurrencies, etc., are applications of that technology. We use in our use cases in Maritime, basically the cybersecurity aspect of it, the fact that you can have a digital fingerprint, which allows you to protect the privacy of the individual, but still facilitate things. So those certificates should not go to everyone, right? They need to come only to that particular individual, otherwise it won't work. And then the QR makes sure that the data is checked in real time, but if you were to just take the QR, you don't know the data itself, right? So things like that are the powers of this technology. But it's like, you don't need blockchain for everything. You don't need AI for everything. So let's be careful of that also.
Thank you very much. We still have some more minutes if someone else wants to pose a question to Anjan. Please feel free to raise your hand or to post it in the Q&A chat.
Yeah, sorry, I just reread the question. So I said a lot of things about Bitcoin and all these things, but I didn't really answer his question. His question was, can you use these things to pay? And the answer is yes, you can use these things to pay, and it is being done today, okay? We can see some applications of that later.
Well, if there's no more questions, or while more questions arise, Anjan, you mentioned that you have something else prepared for the end of the session.
Well, I was just going to go back to the questions I was asking earlier, right? And maybe dive a little bit deeper into that, right? But how much? Yeah, okay, we have a few minutes. So maybe let me go back to that. Right. So here you already talked a little bit about this, right? You asked the question, but let's think a little bit about what are the jobs of the future. Let's also think about, what are the things that could make you redundant? That means, what are the things that pose a threat to your current job, right? Your current value. So Christine, I'm going to use you as the guinea pig here. Sorry about that. Okay, I will. So can you try to answer?
Well, let's put it in a real framework. To what we as ship agencies do at the moment, and our role in the maritime industry at the moment, I think this is a great opportunity to us, especially because we are the ones, well, not only the ones, but ones who engage a lot of information from different sources. And I think that in this scenario, what we need to succeed is to take first steps and start thinking what problems we have today and what these technologies can do to solve them. Because I'm sure that there are many things we're used to do in a daily basis, but maybe we're not doing them the right way. This kind of mentality that because we are used to do something in a certain way doesn't mean it's the best or most efficient, or especially taking into consideration that there are new technologies arising and new ways of doing these things. So that would be my answer to this first question. Then for the jobs in the future, well, I was having a conversation earlier before about this right now, these technologies, and I remember that when internet arose and the computers were rising, I'm not that old, I do remember that people used to think that computers will steal jobs, no? That people will be changed by computers. And today we see that that's not the scenario we live in. We are using the computer, so there's still people working, but now computer is a tool that we use, but it's not a replacement. Technology does not replace people, it helps people solve problems, deeper problems, in a more efficient, quick or safe way. So jobs in the future will be the same jobs, just assisted by these new technologies, and of course, new jobs of people that are working to develop these technologies. And regarding about how could you become redundant? Well, be a leader in this. Try to incorporate it. You were mentioning before, reflecting on what you said, with the example of Airbnb. I think that companies need to be pioneering in this new era of digital technologies. Otherwise, we will be passed by competitors and losing opportunities.
Yes, thanks again, Christina, for giving your thoughts to these questions, quite frankly. And you're on the right track, absolutely on the right track, right? So what you need to succeed, of course, the starting point is awareness. Just, what I said earlier, like you first need to have the attitude that you want to listen. Just because it's something that you don't know, you don't run away from it. You actually go further, you face it, and then you figure out that it's not so complicated, right? And it's really important to cut all the buzzwords, to cut all the hype, and to think very practically. So, when I started learning and trying to understand what is blockchain back in 2015 or a little earlier, I really got confused because I was reading in the press, in the newspapers about blockchain and all that, and there were so many things which were contradictory to what common sense told me. Right? There were dating apps Like you could find your life partner using blockchain. I mean, okay. And I was like, wow, this is great. But how do you do that, right? Yeah, you had all kinds of funny things going on, right? And those companies made millions of dollars at that time in terms of, quickly generating money for themselves through investments or, the fear of missing out, as we call it. I was, and this is a true thing, I was in a conference in Malta, which was known at that time as the crypto nation, right? The prime minister basically was encouraging a lot of crypto companies to come there. And most of them were really, and I have nothing against very young people, don't get me wrong, but some of them were teenagers, some of them were, you could easily make out in their early 20s. And most of them had already become millionaires, right? And I wish them very well. But when I asked them some fundamental questions like, you're the founder of this company, can you help me understand what is the problem you're solving? Or a little technical question like, what's the blockchain protocol you use? They looked at me as though I was like a crazy guy, asking some really bad questions, right? They were really interested in the party the next day, right? So for me, it was like, okay, I don't get it. Either I'm very old or something is really fundamentally wrong. And then time had to pass. A few years later, basically the whole thing crashed, right? We found that even Malta has basically put an arm's length, right, away from these kinds of companies. So we've got maturity now. And this is normal. Again, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. I'm just saying we as people new to technology have to ask some very simple question. We should not be scared to ask any simple question, right? Thinking that, oh, this will sound stupid. That is that is how you will succeed, because you will build on those fundamentals, right? And sometimes we forget to do that. Jobs of the future is to be seen. This we can speculate a lot. What I can tell you, like in a company like Navozyme, perhaps these are the jobs of the future, at least in the immediate. No, that today we need people who know maritime, who know technology, who can do digital transformation, who can communicate well. So again, nothing, like you said, Christina, it's nothing remarkable. It's the same job, but we need you to be very comfortable with the model tools, right? So if you want to use a typewriter in the office, it will be very strange. If you only want to be in a company where there is tie and suit all the time, we don't really care too much about those things, right? We care more about the value that you're able to bring inside the company, right? So these are the jobs of the future. And I think a lot of the young people, young talent and old talent will enjoy that, but it's different way of working, right? You have your teams in different places in the world. Nobody's really controlling you, but still you are responsible for getting results, all those kinds of things, right? How could you become redundant? I think the moment you are in your very comfort zone, the moment you think that your life is kind of settled, perhaps you are in trouble. Okay. And see, my father was an airline pilot. He did one job his whole life for 40 years. Okay. Till he retired. And for him was like, if he loses the job, that's a disaster in his life, right? Today, you just think of it, how many people are changing, the opportunities are. So you should not actually fear being redundant. The only way you can be redundant is if you start feeling extremely safe and that you feel you know it all. If that happens, the change is so fast that you could end up. So as long as you have the learning skills, you have the learning ability, right? And you keep sharpening that, I think you're more than safe. There's always value to be created. So the shipping industry does not need to fear. However, competitors can come from somewhere else, right? There have been lots of talks, and I'm speculating right now, but the people who put cargo on the ships, right? Amazon, for example, their goods are going all over the world on the container ships. Why couldn't they themselves actually, run that business today, right? With using digital technologies and all those kinds of. So suddenly your competitor is somebody else. Drones, right? Other things that we can't even visualize right now. All these things are going to happen, but I think it's going to be good for the society, not bad for us, right? So I'll stop here, but I'm pretty passionate about this topic, and I can go on and on. So
Before we close, if there is any last questions, please feel free to post it. I'm just curious to see your point of view over here, and why maritime? I mean, do you believe that the maritime industry has something that makes it more attractive for this kind of technologies? Why is maritime the sector to start investing now, applying now this digital transformation?
Yeah, again, good question and quite an original question in that sense. I haven't received this question before. So for me, the maritime, first thing is like, it's a big industry, right? So let's just think practically. This is a very, very, very big industry. It literally moves the goods of the world, right? We should remind ourselves that most of the things that we are using, including the computers, probably have come by sea, right? So that's number one. It's a very big industry with a lot of complexity as well. We saw how many stakeholders are there for just getting a ship in and out of a port or the bunkering operation, etc., right? So moment there is complexity and the industry is big, the opportunities are already big, right? So the other thing is, of course, it's your unique positioning. So for me, the answer is very clear because I used to work on board ships many years ago. I then actually went out. I was not in shipping. I was actually doing other things. I was in other industries, right? And I got pulled back because I saw this big opportunity for change. Because again, because of the giant nature of this industry and the complexity, it's really difficult to make that change happen for the reasons we talked before. So anyone who would like to make that change and can make that change, the reward is very, very big. So in my particular case, life had prepared me in a way that I did entrepreneurship in other sectors. I learned about other things. And then it was almost like my first life at sea. It's coming of use today, right? And I also have this personal urge, the frustration that today still the shipping industry is using procedures and technologies which are outdated and causing a lot of problems, like I showed you with the seafarers, waiting for physical certificates and all that. So not only does it do a lot of good, but it's also a massive business opportunity. You can do good and you can do well at the same time, something that I think is brilliant for those who are already in maritime. And those who are not should actually consider, joining this industry.
Sorry, I close it again. Do you think that now this big trends in the maritime sector within decarbonization, with sustainability, all these new regulations that are rising worldwide, all these EU regulations, Fuel EU, all the objectives for the 2050 and so on, there are so many about it. Do you think this new scenario that the decarbonization of the maritime industry is pushing a little bit and trampling the technology transition to deep tech technologies?
Yes, actually, absolutely right. So regulations and the rules, the regulatory forces are one of the main drivers in any industry, right? But I think people have realized that if you don't make that change and somebody else does that before you, you could be completely wiped out. So all the value you've created over so many decades can be reduced to nothing, quite frankly, right? Because if you play the catch-up game, it may be very difficult, right? That's one. Second thing is, in some of these, we don't have time to explore this deeply, but in some business models, there is only space for one or two players. The winner takes all model, as they call it, right? So you can have a few Airbnb type of things, but you can't have hundreds of Airbnb. It doesn't work that way, right? Similarly with the Uber, your pricing will not work properly if that happens. So having that first mover or second mover at most is going to be really important, right? In some of these types of initiatives that we are talking about. So again, it's risky, but it's probably more risky not to do anything, right? So that's my kind of experience on this one. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your answers. Well, we are very close, if not done already with the timing. So if there is just maybe time for just one more question, please feel free to raise your hand or post it in the chat. Meanwhile, I will be thanking Anjan for your time and sharing your wisdom and experiences with us. So looking forward for the next session and start to get to know more about these technologies in a more precise way and in a more deep and detailed way. So all the participants for this webinar, this first session, will receive the invitation for the next one very, very soon. And those who couldn't join today, don't worry, because you will be able to access the review in our YouTube channel shortly. Okay. So I don't see any further questions, and we are due of time already. So Anjan, thank you very much again for your time and your thoughts. And I'm just so looking forward for having you in the next part.
Now, thank you so much, Christina. Thanks for inviting. This was great fun. And I look forward to the next one, where we'll actually go into more details on how the technology really works. And this next session is going to be about blockchain, one of my favorite topics. Okay. So thanks again for having me.
You too. Well, I'll say bye to everyone now. And as I said, you will receive more information regarding our programs and on the following webinar sessions. Wish you a lovely day ahead to everyone and happy Halloween. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.